And so that's really what we're trying to do here with this podcast. Is it's called Breaking Ground, because we're trying to break the ground of the old ways. And yes, there's a lot of great old ways, but the innovation comes very slow in this industry. And we want to start to try to ramp that up, or at least start the conversation at the very least. And so that's great what you're doing. I've been there too with some products where, the even services too, product services, where you have that old school mentality where they don't want to bring on something new, or they're not, like you said, maybe they're intimidated by it. So it's more of the teaching and the educational side of it first, like a chat like this one, and then it kind of unfolds into something much more. So that's great to hear. We're gonna step aside really quick and hear from High Level Talent, my company. Quick commercial break, and then we will be right back. All right, and we're back to Breaking Ground, a construction innovation podcast, and we have Caleb Rosenberger with us here. And so, Caleb, we were just talking about before the commercial break something that is interesting, and you and I kind of pointed out, hey, let's go back to that because it is very important. This whole podcast is to have someone on like you who's trying to push something innovative and is trying to educate the industry on something new, something that can make a job site even as simple as safer. And so, what are there any other things that you would like to bring up based on this topic?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that, I've had a lot of conversation with different teams, and there's different perspectives, and it just ranges. Some people are open-minded to new things, to new ideas, and some people, they're a little less open-minded. And a lot of that skepticism, I think, comes from bad experiences, or just they don't want to reinvent the wheel, which is understandable, right? If it's something that doesn't need to be fixed, why fix it? But there are a lot of things that we can improve on, right? And so one of the things I always ask teams right off the bat is, um, who in the group is hired to be a tagline holder, right? And when it comes to our tech, who is hired to be a tagline holder? And everybody looks at me like, well, nobody has the title tagline holder. That's just a convenience thing that we are inconveniently having to necessarily do, right? And that gets people thinking, okay, this technology, for example, is a way for teams to get to the things that we really need the skills in, right? We don't need people to be skilled tagline holders. We need people to be skilled in not grabbing onto a tagline at the wrong time, right? But we don't need them to be skilled in necessarily in that as a trade. So we need to repurpose that. We need to rethink how we do that. And I think there's a lot of other technology. I think there's maybe even some methods about how we go about our work that we can apply that type of thinking to. And sometimes it's not reinventing the wheel. It's just looking at even history and saying, well, was there a better way at some point too that maybe we can expand on, or maybe we can get back to? Sometimes we forget things over the years, or maybe we've never tried it before, but maybe this is a really good idea. And I think that one thing I see in a lot of the processes of general contractors, subcontractors, when they go through their pre-con phases and their reevaluation of that at the end of the project, is they we do take pride in the organizational side. We want to be able to make things efficient in how we go about the process. But the thing that we don't always do is leave room for that creativity or trying some of those new things out, because we get comfortable. We get really comfortable being locked in. And it's the same thing with the field teams, right? When they're doing something the same way, we get comfortable with, okay, they know how to do this well. This is how we can make it work. They're comfortable with this. But sometimes being uncomfortable is what gets us to something better. Sometimes being uncomfortable is what makes it better and makes it safer, right? We really have to take the time to evaluate that, look at that, and take that chance if that's truly what it is, right? But it does take a minute, and it does take time, which we all value. We all only have so much time to listen to podcasts, watch podcasts. We only have so much time to read our inbox, which is always usually full of emails that we barely even get to look at half of them. But these types of things can be revolutionary when it comes to productivity, to return on investment, and most of all, making sure people go home at the end of the day. So we need to think about those things.